I'm really out of my element here. This is not the type of video that I usually do. And it's not really the type of sports fan that I am either. I'm not that, fly off the handle at stuff. I'm a very level, very balanced sports fan most of the time. And it takes quite a lot to kind of get me to have that fire lit under me where I can become the belligerent asshole that I know I'm capable of being, but I just don't like being, especially not on here. There's a lot of people on social media and YouTube that make a career of being that person, or in sports media, in legitimate sports media, make a career out of being the belligerent asshole. And I don't begrudge any of them for that. It's just not me. But then last night happened, and a realization dawned on me that had probably been there for a long time. The Toronto Raptors are the single most disrespected defending champion in the history of the NBA. And I don't think there is any other franchise that can hold a candle to how much disrespect the Toronto Raptors are given, specifically by the American sports media and American sports fans, and there's probably a lot of them watching, and you're probably not going to be too happy with what I have to say. I should preface a lot of this by saying, unfortunately, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors become the, begrudging punching bag towards this, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. I might go a little overboard here, but it is not their fault. Steph Curry came back last night. And that was a tremendous story because there were a lot of people saying, Steph Curry, he might not play again this year. And I think he missed 58 games or something like that. So he comes back last night, looked okay. Didn't look great, but looked okay. But that was the entire narrative. It was the entire narrative about the Golden State Warriors Toronto Raptors game last night was Steph Curry coming back. And I understand it because, again, he missed 58 games. He's one of the most visible, most well-liked, and biggest stars in the NBA. It wouldn't bother me so much if there was not a single shred of any part of the conversation surrounding that game that actually talked about the Toronto Raptors. You can go on any American sports media outlet right now and find whole articles dedicated to a random Steph Curry and one in the second quarter of a game that they were badly losing, a game they ultimately lost, by the way, by 8 points, 3 whole possessions. Well, why does that bother you? Steph came back. That's a huge story. It's human interest. You got to appeal to the people that are watching and reading. I get it. And you're not wrong. You're just incomplete. Yeah, Steph Curry came back last night. Huge story. The Warriors lost the game by 8 points to the Toronto Raptors. The team that, I'm kind of remembering, closed down their old building. Beat them in, what was it? The NBA Finals last year. In 6 games. Because it's the 6. Beat them in 6 games to win the NBA championship. Close down Oracle. By the way, also last night, the Raptors clinched a playoff spot. That's a hell of a story. There's only 2 teams in the NBA right now that have clinched playoff spots. It's the Bucks and it's the Raptors. Let's not look at the Eastern Conference standings because the conference is awfully weak. But still, only 2 teams have clinched. The Raptors are one of them and they did it last night. The Raptors clinched a playoff spot for the 7th straight season by virtue of that win last night. That ties them with the Houston Rockets for the 2nd longest active streak of consecutive seasons in the playoffs, behind San Antonio, and San Antonio might not make it this year. But all that is yet another story that the American media and American basketball fans are completely ignorant of. They have no idea because no one is telling them. How about this one for you? Raptors are locked into the playoffs. Woohoo, awesome. Eastern Conference is pretty darn weak at the bottom of that playoff pool. If the Raptors win a playoff round, one series, which, considering the weakness of the teams in the East, is pretty well a lock unless something completely catastrophic happens. So if they win a playoff round, they will sit all alone atop the NBA in terms of consecutive years with at least one playoff victory. They would have 5 consecutive years where they've won at least a playoff round, which would be tops across the NBA. Is anybody talking about that? No, of course not. Is anybody talking about the fact that a lot of American outlets didn't even have the Raptors making the playoffs this year? Why? Because the one guy left, because Kawhi Leonard left. So automatically the Raptors must be garbage because Kawhi Leonard's not there anymore. All the Raptors have done all season is proved that they were more than Kawhi Leonard. Why are we not hearing about that? Because it's not considered an interesting narrative and certainly doesn't make those pundits and talking heads look very good now, does it? And here's the real problem. And again, it's got nothing to do with Golden State. It's got nothing to do with Steph Curry. It's got everything to do with the people with the platforms who refuse to use it. Here's the deal. Here's why the Raptors are the most disrespected defending NBA champions in history. Because everyone thought it was just Kawhi. Guess what? You don't go to 7 straight playoffs because you had Kawhi Leonard for 1 year. You don't potentially win 5 straight playoff rounds, 5 straight years with at least a playoff win because you had Kawhi Leonard for 1 year. And you know what? A team is not one player. Never has been, never will be. And the Raptors, just in their own, are living proof of that. But apparently nobody south of the 49th parallel seems to give a damn about that. Nobody talks about the Raptors the way they talk about the Spurs, the way they talk about now the Lakers, the way they talk about the Celtics, the way they talk about the Houston Rockets. Nobody talks about the Raptors as if they're an elite franchise in the NBA, which guess what? They are. The reason you go to 7 straight playoffs, the reason you potentially win rounds in 5 consecutive years is great players, it's great coaches, and a great foundation. It sure as hell ain't 1 year of Kawhi Leonard. Somebody south of the 49th has got to start putting some respect on the name of the defending champs, not just because Kawhi Leonard was here 1 year, but because they are the model of an NBA franchise, because they are among the elite NBA franchises. And when this year's playoff rolls around, all the Toronto Raptors are going to do is shove it in your faces if you said they weren't going to make the playoffs, is shove it in your faces if you thought they couldn't win without Kawhi Leonard. The Raptors are going to prove this year Kawhi, he should have stayed. And that's exactly what they've been doing all year. And it's what they're going to do come playoff time. That's it for me. I'm Justin. I'm Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube. I'm Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. I'm a Raptors fan. We the North, we the champs, and we still here. You better start talking about it.